Hello everyone, welcome to Advist US channel. In this video, we look at the US immigration updates for employment based on green cards for this week, a week of 25 to 31st. What we'll cover in this video are updates from adjustment of status policy memo that came out last week. We look at some context around that, and also from last week June visa bulletin update, what you can do, and there's a new electronic filing rule that's coming up. Again, this more administrative thing, and other updates on slots and all of that, right? So this is what we'll cover. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, do subscribe to get regular updates. So first, to set the context, right? Last week there was a lot of chaos and confusion among many regarding the administrator's policy memo that came out. Just to set the context of the scale of impact that it can have, why so many people were worried about that is this is the numbers, right? So approximately anywhere from 600 to 700,000 adjustment of status cases are filed every year. And, in 2023, FY 2023, about 679K. So what you see on the screen is the graph from USCIS annual data that actually they publish. So you can see how important it is. Imagine taking all of these and, putting them at the consulates, or a good amount of them. That's going to really spike up the processing time. It's going to do a lot of disruption. So that is the reason many people are panicked about this. So it's that's why there's a lot of discussion, a lot of backlash that has happened about this policy memo. So it's been like the talk of the town this entire week because it was dropped on a weekend on Friday, and then this long weekend, all of that. So that's why it was really created a lot of thing on that, right? So post that, what has happened is there has been some walk back by DHS. There was an update from the New York Times where they actually quoted talking to DHS officials, as well as the Wall Street Journal reported this as well. So they said that it is not good. It's just a reminder to USCIS policy adjudicating officers, right? So that when they adjudicate, they use the discretionary powers in a much more way. And it is not really a change in the policy. I mean, like change in the way it is done. And they say that it is more for people who overstay, for overstay visas, who come from countries where they're heavily users the public assistance groups and things like that. And these are like, people who come in and they get married to somebody and then they stay back despite their, some of the policy violations, or their overstays and things like that, right? So they're targeted mainly towards that particular set of individuals, not exactly, everybody, right? So there is nothing like as nothing to panic as much as it was. Again, this is based on some of these. Again, there is no official press release from USS on this. This is basically the quotation from talks by New York Times and Wall Street Journal. This thing kind of things, right? When we talk to them, right? So that was the thing. So just to clarify, right? Also White House also announced it in another discussion as well, right? They also said that it's a housekeeping matter, not a change in the overall strategy about that. So I mean, you rest assured, you can, if you're an H1B or an L1 visa, trying to do adjustment of status, you can be like slightly less worried. But what it does is it also puts in a lot of discretionary authority power to the USS officers, right? So the high risk are non-dual intent visas, which are F1 OPT students, B1, B2 visitors. So P1, B2 visitors are people who come in and essentially you come on a tourist visa, you get married to somebody, and then you do an adjustment of status. So these are the kinds of things they want to really avoid. And also like TN, all of these, some of these things, right? So these are the ones, again, O1 is a quasi dual intent kind of thing, right? Not exactly full dual intent. But again, if you're an H1B and L1 status, you are in a better position than others because. But again, that does not mean that you automatically get it. You still have to show your strong ties and what you have done. You should not have violations and all sorts of things, right? So all in all, the key message is. DHS has slightly gone back and said that, not a big change in strategy. We were just a housekeeping matter and things like that. So you just have to ensure that you file an application. That's right. So that's the main update on that. So you can be less worried. But again, we still have to see how things will really turn out. We have not seen any data yet because it's going to take some time for these approvals and denials to come in and then RFEs to come in. So it's still a long way to go. Nobody knows what's happening, including lawyers, because they've not seen any data. And so, I mean, there are talks about suing this, taking to the legal, but again, there is no data points on that, right? So again, right now, it's kind of in an unknown state, rather. Let's put it that way, where things are fluid and things may change. So we'll have to wait and see based on how the results come in, and there will definitely be some kind of legal fight on this. There'll be some lawsuits. So the second update, this was updated last week, just to again clarify, right? EB2 India is a limit has reached. What clarification we wanted to give was, US consulates or adjustment status will not be done for rest of the year for EB2 India. So you can still continue to file if you're, because they have not really gone back and changed their visa bulletin that, basically, so you can still file if your priority is current, just that you won't get your green card adjudicated, right? You won't get the decision, you won't get a green card because they'll have to wait for that until end of the year. And again, this is just a housekeeping matter, right, from last week that it's not really like you will have to not file. So you can, what USCIS will continue to take EB2. So if you're eligible, just file it. And if you have into a schedule, just go ahead with it. And you plan to attend, do not reschedule it. Just that they can't approve it, right? That's what this is on this updates on this the second part. So the other ones, quietly, what USA is doing is they're making this electronic filing rule mandatory. Essentially, this is right now what you see on the screen is the regin4.gov, which is where the regulations go, and that's currently submitted to OMB for review. So essentially now it's going on. So the thing is that there are some pros and cons with this. The reason for mainly to come up with this is they had a lot of these issues with payments, ACH payments, rejections, and packets sent back and forth. But there are a lot of ground level issues that attorneys see, right? What we see is attorneys, when they use some kind of form filling, forms where they upload forms, their systems do not recognize it well. So there are issues with that. There are also some challenges around essentially, even if you submit it, you don't get some of these receipted immediately because for most of the forms, because they still take some time to validate everything. That's what they say. So the current USCIS systems are not strong enough for this. But again, what they're trying to do is because the payment issues are happening and all of that. So that's why they're making it mandatory. So we'll have to see how the whole thing will play out. Organizing documents, all of that. But again, this is more to do with administration of the challenges that attorneys will face. But it can have some impact on regular people as well because of making it mandatory. You need to be ensuring that a lot of things are done properly. You can't really take chances with some of these things, right? Because if it gets rejected, then you're in trouble. The third topic we got questions around is in the second round H1B lottery. Again, it's too early to tell. I mean, this data was, we covered this last week, but quick update is registrations for 2027 fell from 343K to 211,000. It was about 38% down. And they say that, higher master's degree applicants and level one wage were reduced. Master's degrees were increased to 71%, and level one wage work has dropped to 71.7. So we don't have the full data yet. We still are in the filing season. So until June 30th, you can't really tell if there will be a second round lottery. So you can't really bank on this because if you can't plan life around this, right? So we didn't had it last year, so we may or may not have it. So yeah, just plan accordingly. This is just an update on that, right? On the second round lottery, if you're waiting for that. Too early to predict. Again, this week there are no bulk visa slots released, so we have an active group that where we track this. We have a lot of users, so there is no bulk slot released this week, and wait times remain very unpredictable. There are some ghost slots that appear here and there again. So stay tuned. And if you're looking for an appointment, stay tuned for that. But the thing is, if you are in the US, do not come, because if you come in, it's going to be very hard for you to go back because getting a slot has become like almost impossible. So that's the key thing. What's ongoing? This is what we covered the last few weeks. We are waiting on the duration of status rule. Signature rule is currently in place. The reweighting is happening, and some other things that are in Congress, they have not moved much. So all of these are ongoing things, right? Some of them that are happening. So you can watch our previous videos if you want to get more details on this. So the key takeaways for this week, AOS isn't gone. Adjustment of status is still there. They said whatever you see on the political statement, like you have to go back and all of that, that's all kind of toned down. So if you're in a dual intent, you're kind of in a safer zone. But if you're on a non-dual intent, there'll be much more scrutiny. You have to establish much more positive factors. We did an entire video on this, last week, so you can watch that on what are the factors if these things are on all that, right? And again, EB2 India is unavailable. You can still continue to file, but you won't get a green card. That's the point. They'll just wait until the number gets available. The EU filing mandatory was submitted to OMB for review, so it is not out yet. So too early to tell for H1B second or lottery. We just have very preliminary numbers. Those are not sufficient to tell. So we have to wait until June 30th for that, right? And no bulk visa slots for this week. If so again, if you travel advisory, if you are on in the US, do not try to come unless it's like a real emergency for you. And so that's it, folks. Update for this week. Do subscribe for getting regular updates. We do this. I've been trying to do this every week. So hope to continue to do this. Please, so stay subscribed so that you can get notification and do that. Thanks again for watching.